Welcome to the top 10 judging of the 2025 Asia Pacific Photography Awards Open category. This is a category for free range photography of any subject and genre. This category is intended to celebrate photographers who push the boundaries of day-to-day photography and create conceptual or representative works. Photographs can explore a variety of techniques, including in-camera and any post-production treatment, as long as it meets the global rules. As in other categories, the entrant must have created all the content themselves and all elements must be photographic. This means that no computer-generated content is allowed. If an image includes text, the text must have been photographed by the entrant rather than created in post-production. My name is Sarah McGregor and I will be the panel chair for today, and we have a wonderful panel of judges joining us: Amber Griffin, Craig Turner-Bullock, Rachel Smith, Johan van Kaan and Angela Eastwood. We're going to start the category with a run through of our top 10 images. Okay, can we have the first image, please? Okay, we have an initial score of 90, which is a gold award, and we have 3 judges in the 90 to 94 range. Johan, do you want to challenge that one?
Absolutely. Can I just ask a question? What sort of birds are these?
They are gang cockatoos.
Okay, so I look at this image and I go, what a great narrative here. You've got a man, a conversation that starts with, look, I can do this. And then the mocking return of, you can do that. And then the other person takes off. And it's just such a wonderful little narrative held within this beautiful oval, controlled incredibly well. It's just stunning. And those little flashes of red that just grab your eye and hold you where you're supposed to be. It's quite a stunning, artistic, creative presentation of Gang cockatoos.
Thanks, Johan. Angela, can we hear from you, please, and your score?
Sure. I gave this an 86, and the only reason I didn't come up any higher was that I totally missed that narrative, and thanks, Johan, for pointing that out. And yeah, the more I see that, yeah, it's very clever, and it's very beautifully done and well handled, and yeah, I actually quite like the branch heading off to the left, kind of almost indicating the leaving of the other bird from the frame as well, which is good. So yeah, I will come up, but the reason I held back initially was that I completely missed that narrative that was there.
Craig, can we hear from you, please, and your score?
Yeah, I think this is a fantastic piece that shows a native Australian animal and a native Australian foliage. I love the fact that you've got these kind of fluffy red and yellow flowers that kind of mirror the fluffiness of this species of cockatoo's crests. I don't want to throw a spanner in Johann's narrative, but it's actually 3 birds at the top, which is quite a little fun, little, I don't know, little fracas going on at the top there, and then 2, and then the other bird's blown off and 1 at the bottom. So yeah, I really enjoy this. It reminds me of those cases in a museum as well, where they have like the stuffed animals and in those glass domes. And I think that the editing treatment kind of mirrors that a little bit as well. So I think this is really fantastic. I scored it 92. Yeah.
Thanks, Craig. Back to you, Johann. Oh, sorry, Amber had her hand up. You are also in the gold range.
Yeah, I scored this image a 90, and I think that I could come up a little bit. I'm not sure, what did you actually give this, Johann?
93.
93. Okay, yep, I could join you on 93. The only reason that I couldn't go up into gold distinction for this image, because I do think that this is masterful, is just overall, I feel like it feels slightly dark and dull in the color palette. And I also feel like the composition it's very right heavy. And as far as the way that it sits within the oval, it just, for me, feels slightly lopsided. But if you could explain those to me, that would be wonderful.
Okay, back to you,
I-
Johann. Sorry.
Okay, I can explain the sense of darkened, maybe sort of, well, darkness, is the photographer did themselves a disservice by presenting it against a bright white background, which made it look dull and uninteresting. But if you look into it, you can see the vibrancy, you can see the range of tones is kind of there. You know, like some of the highlights on the wings of the birds, etc. It sort of brings you into where it's supposed to be. And if you look at it sort of upside down and around the other way around, you'll notice that these brighter white highlights are actually over where the birds are, so that you can't help but semi-consciously be drawn to those points. And I love the way that it reads in from downwards. And I love the shrinking of the foliage as you go down. There's so much of it that is masterful, and that as Craig pointed out, that balance of the single branch coming in from the left-hand side, it's very clever, very, very clever, very masterful. I gave it a 93, and see what you can do.
Thanks, Johann. Judges, can you please rescore? And we have a gold award at 92. Congratulations to the photographer. Can we have the next image, please? Thank you, judges. We have an initial score of 89. Rachel, do you want to challenge that one?
Yes, I'll challenge that. I gave this one a 93. I think it's beautifully executed, and the story I'm getting here is, it sort of amused me, despite the fact that she doesn't look like she's overly amused. I feel like she's kind of surprised at the realization that she's no longer a spring chicken. There's the sense of the peeling wallpaper showing the layers of time and the aging process, the surprise in her face. The picture in the background shows a young woman with lots of children nurturing, maybe they're her hatchlings or something like that. I feel like there's a really interesting narrative I'm getting out of it, and it's really, really well executed, and so I've put it in at 93.
Thanks, Rachel. Amber, can we hear from you, please?
Yeah, sure. I had this in the high silver range at 84. I think I just struggle with the expression on the woman's face, particularly her eyes. Even though they're well lit, she looks to me really uncomfortable and almost sort of irritated or a bit awkward. And I see all those elements like the large egg and all of those elements in the background, but I don't really get a clear narrative from this image. To me, it feels like the woman has been a bit sort of awkwardly posed there with the wings stuck on her back, and it just feels all a little bit forced.
Thanks, Amber. Johan, can we hear from you, please?
Yeah, just sort of reinforcing what Amber said about the eyes. If you look at them, one of them's got two highlights quite strong, and one of them's only got a single highlight. And it does become quite disturbing. And I don't think that's an intentional addition to the photograph. Like, I feel that in a category where you've got infinite control, that could have been dealt with in a better way. It's a beautiful image. I love the potential for a story there about, you know, all the family have left, and she's just left with a shell of a family, or whatever it is, and that her world's crumbling around her. But I don't think that's strong enough for me to go into a gold. I did give it an 89, so it's really close.
Thanks, Johan. Craig, Craig, you are also in support of Rachel there.
Yeah, so I'm on a 92 with this, and I think for a lot of the reasons that Rachel pointed out with the story there, the kind of uncomfortable expression actually sells the narrative more for me, because I guess, you know, when you're in this position and you're that kind of age and you're kind of at that realization that, you know, you might not be here for much longer, it is probably uncomfortable to reconcile that. So I feel like the expression sells the story more for me. I think there's lots of analogies that we can use with the eggshell, the empty nest, the passage of time, all of that stuff. And yeah, I just think that the treatment, the composition, the color palette, and everything here is really beautiful. So yeah, I was up in the 90s as well.
Thanks, Craig. Angela, did you want to add something new to that?
Yeah, I did. The more I look at it, the narrative that I'm seeing more is perhaps she didn't have children, and that empty shell there is the fact that she is alone in her later life, and you know, the picture of Mother Mary surrounded by children was the dream. So that could explain sort of that awkwardness, that that disparaged look in her eye as well, that she's ended up alone with no children. That's what I'm taking from the image more. I scored this in 88, so, and I could be tempted to come up a few points.
Thank you, Rachel. Back to you.
Thanks for that additional narrative, Angela. I think what this is telling me is that we can form several different opinions or narratives within this, which just shows how clever it is. I'm also feeling that one of the additional narratives that we could have is perhaps this woman has had some sort of illness, Alzheimer's or something, where she hasn't even remembered how old she is, and she suddenly looked in the mirror and thought, holy shit, where's all that time gone? Because I feel like that every morning. But I also think in relation to the comments about the eyes, with the level of detail and care taken and all of the elements of this image, I feel like that has been quite deliberate, and that awkward, startled expression is intentional for whatever reason or whatever narrative that we're pulling out there. I think that that's how the photographer has wanted her to come across. So it'd be really cool if I could get a few more joining me up in the 90s, please.
Okay, judges, can you please rescore? Thank you, and we have a gold at 90. Congratulations to the photographer. Can we have the next image, please? Thank you, judges. We have an initial score of 89, and we have 2 judges sitting in gold. Amber or Johan, do you want to challenge this?
I'll challenge it.
Okay.
Okay, so I gave this image 94 because, oh wow, I just think that the subtleness, the textural nature, the beauty that emanates from this female is so ethereal and just so beautiful. I really, really love the clever subtlety of the color palette and the way that whatever is between the camera and the subject sort of emphasizes the shapes that her body is making without giving away too much information. The layering of the different textures that is going on is just so beautiful. And the only reason that I couldn't go any higher with this is just there's I think, a little glitch down in the very bottom left corner, which I find annoying. But yeah, it's just so beautiful.
Thanks, Amber. Angela, can we hear from you, please, and your score?
Sure. I gave this an 84, and probably for some of those reasons that you said, Amber, the glitch in the bottom corner, there's a few technical things there. I find the textures on the bottom quite distracting, making me think that I need to be looking there instead of at her beautiful face. I really love the color palette and the softness of the image, but I find the textures and even the water droplets a little bit too distracting because they are so sharp, and it's just a little bit disjointed between that sharpness of that text, the droplets in the front and the softness in the background. But I can be persuaded to come up, but I'm not sure I'm in gold, but I'm open to hearing more.
Craig, do you want to comment on this? You're pretty close.
Yeah, so I love it for all of the reasons that have already been said. I think it's really stunning. I scored it 88 because of the editing issues in that bottom corner. I think when we're talking about gold, I don't want to see a glitch like that down there. I don't know if I can come up into gold for that reason. If that wasn't there, then yeah, I would absolutely be in the gold range. But I think we've got to remember that, you know, we're looking for the absolute best work. And, you know, you could maybe forgive the odd subtle kind of repeating pattern from a clone track perhaps, but when it's a corner that's got that issue, that's a bit of attention to detail there that needs to be paid.
Thanks, Craig. Johan, you're pretty close to Amber. Do you want to?
Yeah, I agree with Amber, but Craig said it all really. Yeah, that's all I need to say.
Thank you. Back to you, Amber.
Come on, Johan.
No, the glitch got me.
Okay. Well, I still feel really comfortable on my 94, and I think that the textural things that you're talking about in the skirt area, Angela, that is just chill. So it's just the nature of seeing what is actually going on behind there. I feel like this is something, the way that the droplets are all kind of, if you go in close and see the way that the droplets are interacting there, I actually think that this is something that's all been captured in camera. And I think as far as the level of mastery of technique goes, it's really quite exceptional. It's such a beautiful portrait. And if you had commissioned a photographer to create a beautiful ethereal portrait of yourself or of your daughter, then I think that this would be an exceptional piece of work to receive. I think it's very, very worthy of a gold. Unfortunately, not a gold distinction, but I think you guys need to have another look and come up.
Thank you, Amber. Can we have judges rescore, please? Thank you. We have a gold at 90. Congratulations to the photographer. Can we have the next image, please? Thank you, judges. We have an initial score of 92. Craig, I think you're the one that needs to lead
I'll take this one.
Challenge.
I know that I know it's a good image when my heart starts beating faster. I scored this 98. I think this is an absolute masterfully created piece of fantasy meeting science. This is a scientific study of an angel. Every single piece in this has been captured and photographed by the photographer. It has been all captured absolutely magnificently, and I think that some of these details, the fact that that angels lay eggs and there's their baby angel in the egg cutaway at the bottom there, the flaming harp, the eye inside the skulls, like the all-seeing eye, the jewels that kind of project out that aura of an angel. Everything here has been very carefully thought through, pieced together, and I have nothing negative in amongst any of this. It is all beautiful. So I think we should really be taking this quite high into that excellence range.
Thanks, Craig. Amber, can we hear from you, please? You're on mute.
Sorry. I scored this in 88, and I agree with all of those things that you have just said, Craig. It is an exceptional piece of art. There's clearly an immense amount of work that has gone into creating this. But when I look at the scoring criteria, and we look at the level of technique, craft, and production, for me, there's just a couple of really obvious glitches in here, a little bit of lazy cutting out of things that doesn't bring it into the outstanding or exceptional realm for me. So if you look in the top frame on the left, you can see the feathers that are included in the frame that are in front of the body have been not cut out properly, and there's like a really obvious kind of background that is not matching in properly with what's going on behind that. And then, and I'm only looking at this at 100%, and then if you look down at the main subject's toes, her toes are really kind of clumsily cut out. And I just feel like when you are creating a composite at this level of complexity, the craft really needs to hold up. And for me, it doesn't in those areas.
Thanks, Amber. Angela, can we hear from you too, please, and your score?
Sure, I gave this a 94. And the only reason that I didn't go into the next higher range is for those reasons that Amber said. It's just a few little technical crafting issues in the image, but overall it's exceptional. The story is there, the referencing to sort of Victorian studies and people that used to, you know, study corpses and for science. So it's a very creative and exceptionally well seen and created piece, but yeah, it's just those little details that held it back from going even higher for me. But I'm happy on 94. It's definitely a gold image for me, so if we need to come up a few to get that, that would be awesome.
Thanks, Angela. Back to you, Craig. You're on mute too.
Yep. Okay, I think Amber, you actually said exceptional when you were talking about this, and if you're throwing words out like exceptional, I wonder if perhaps the score deserves to be brought up into that 90s range at least. I guess I can concede the toes. I don't really see an issue with the feathers on the top left there. I think that there's some areas around the image where the kind of glow of this angel's aura has warranted that kind of treatment, so that looks okay to me. But just look at every single piece here that this photographer has had to capture, not only just sourcing these materials, but photographing them all beautifully and putting this together. I don't know. I don't even know how you would begin to conceptualize this in your mind, let alone realize it on an actual image. So yeah, it was a 98 for me, and I'd love to get this a few more points.
Thank you. Judges, can you rescore, please? Craig, if you can re-enter your 98. Thank you. We have a gold at 94. Congratulations to the photographer. Can we have the next image, please? Thank you, judges. We have a gold at 93 and all our judges are in the gold range. So is everyone happy with that 93, or does anyone want to challenge that higher?
I'll challenge then.
Okay, Craig.
Okay, so I'm on 93. I could easily be talked into giving this more points. Well, I'll talk about the less obvious stuff first, I guess. That is that anybody who is a dog photographer will know that you are not likely to capture this in a short period of time. It's not going to have been a day's work. This is going to have been multiple sessions over multiple days to get the dogs doing what they wanted to do. And over those multiple periods of time, the photographer has created an extremely consistent set of images that have got tons of texture all throughout them, and the black and white conversions are really beautiful. So that's the first thing. I think the second thing is that the scale of everything here is really really good, really on point with the scale. And then you've got the obvious stuff, I guess, with the nod to Latin and the tales of Canis Familiaris. Who doesn't love a pun? And that's not the only pun there. Every single one of those names made me smile. And of course, Felis. Well, I'm not even going to attempt to pronounce Latin names, but there you go. The cat one, like the imposter there, really made me laugh. And I love the balance of all of this. And I particularly love the Aussie Shepherd peeking back at us, because I think that's quite an Aussie Shepherd thing to do as well. So lots and lots and lots to enjoy and love about this. And it's very funny and it's beautifully crafted.
Thanks, Craig. Does someone else want to have a chat? Amber?
I just didn't want to challenge it because I knew that Craig would do a better job, and I also wanted the opportunity to lift my score. I'm going to have a go. Felis Imposterus Canis Pretendus for the cat.
That's it. Well done.
And I've gone through and looked at all of these made up but hilarious names that all match in so cutely and hilariously with each of the different tales, and there's just so much humor and so much thought that has gone into creating this piece. And the more that you sort of sit with it and look at it, the more that you're rewarded. It's really a very cleverly crafted, quite magical piece of art. So if we look at the scoring range, I think really this most definitely is exceptional. It definitely has an enduring quality. And I think that we've probably underscored this at a 93. So I'm going to come up into the gold with excellence range for this because it deserves it.
Thanks, Amber. Johan?
Just to add to everything that Amber said, a clinching reason why this needs to go up into distinction is originality. Yeah, I gave it 93 and I'm happy to go up several notches.
Thank you.
Sorry, Craig.
Craig, have you got something else you want to add, or?
No, I think that it's all been said. I can't lift my score because I was the challenger, so I'm relying on you guys all to do your best.
Thank you. Judges, can you please rescore? Amazing work. We have a gold with excellence at 96. Congratulations to the photographer. Can we have the next image, please? Thank you, judges. We have an initial score of 92. Craig, do you want to challenge this one?
Yeah, I'll take this one. I snuck this in at 95, so just putting it into that excellence range. I think that it's an extremely topical piece right now with AI revolution that's taking over the world. But if there's one thing that AI can't do, it's create something with heart and with feeling. And I think that this AI creation is figuring out things here as to how come it can't make its heart work. And I think that's a really strong message. As all of us creatives start to suffer from AI taking our creativity from us. And I think it's beautifully put together, the beautiful way that the light is falling, the glow of the red really kind of advancing out and showing those hearts and veins and wires and all of those things. Yeah, I think this is absolutely fantastic. It doesn't matter how many diagrams this robot is working from and calculations, it's just not going to happen. So yeah, I scored this 95.
Thanks, Craig. Johan.
Before you do that, there's a couple of things that just it's a wonderful, powerful message in this. The message is strong and frightening and concerning. So for the strength of that, I would have given it gold. But for a couple of technical things that kind of irk me, like one of the strongest points in the image is the red glowing eye. But I feel that the red is coming out more from the side of the eye than the middle of the eye. And if it was going to be menacing and correct, I would say that the red would be more central. And it just is a simple and little thing, but it just bothers me a lot. And then the join between the skinned arm and the revealed arm is not right. It's not a good render. And because it's at the end of a line where you follow from her hand up the arm to that point, it's your eye is directed to look there. And when you do, the reward is not as good as it could have been. So for those, it's only a couple of small things. I gave it an 88, and I'm really happy to listen to what people will say. But yeah, they just bugged me.
Thanks, Johan. Amber's got her hand up.
I agree that the narrative strength within this image is very, very clever. And for that reason, I gave it a 92. But the more that you look into this image, the more that you do start seeing a lot of little technical inaccuracies with the compositing. You can see, you know, just under the jar of hearts, there's a couple of sort of balls of red wire, and they haven't been clear cut or they haven't been composited properly into the next layer behind it. Like you can't see the wooden table, they've just got black pieces in there. And then when you look overall at the image, there's some real confusion with some of the depth of field. Like the depth of field is falling off on some of the more foreground layers, yet we still have sort of full focus going on in areas of the image that are actually further back. So just for those little things, I would struggle to lift this into the gold with excellence range. But I do think that it's a very clever piece of storytelling.
Thanks, Amber. Back to you, Craig.
No, I'm not muted. Johan, I think on the eye, that red is coming right out of the pupil, and I kind of would expect it to come from there. So I don't really have a problem with that. I'm not really seeing, when I'm looking at this at 100%, depth of field issues either. But yeah, I just think it's so clever, so unique, so original, and we should be scoring it accordingly. So let's rescore it.
Thanks, Craig. Judges, please rescore. And we have a gold award at 92. Thank you, judges. Can we please have the next image? Thank you, judges. We have a silver with merit at 85. Congratulations to the photographer. Rachel, do you want to comment on this one? Johan, would you like to comment on this one?
Sure. I love the design of the image, the curve on the spine that leads you up to the hair, and it's this great mass flop of blonde, and then the almost austere look on the face, and then you follow down through the arm, and then you lead to that one finger point on the knee, which is just stunning. However, there are a few technical things that were a little bit disturbing. One in particular was the junction between the model's skin and the top of the skirt that they're wearing. It was just a little bit sort of unexplainable. And then if you follow that line up, it leads to a little fold in the stomach, which is possibly the consequence of lighting, but it's not flattering and not very kind and takes away from the elegance of the image. And there's just a few other little joins where the process has taken away from the naturalness of the image. So yeah, attention to those things would be make it even better.
Thank you, Johan. Can we have the next image, please? Thank you, judges. We've got quite consistent scoring there. We have a gold at 92.
Not so much as a challenger, but as the leader of the discussion and can bring it back to whatever it is. I think this is mastery. There's wonderful control, such wonderful control, given that the elements are all photographic. This has taken a lot of planning, a lot of creativity, a lot of forethought, and there's a depth in here. The choice of colors, the choice of costume, the choice of framing. It's quite powerful for that. I gave it a 92. I'm happy with my score. And it's just so strong and well designed to the point where I just feel it's almost over designed. But that's all. But I think it's very worthy of a gold reward.
Thanks, Johan. Rachel, do you want to comment on this one?
Sure. I gave this a 91. I think it's beautifully put together. I'm really wishing I knew more about some of the symbols and stuff that are included. I'm feeling like it's questioning perhaps who was here first, with the connection between the gold and the symbols and the Incans or Mayans, and you know, all of the stories around what they worshipped or why they worshipped it. But I don't have enough knowledge to make that connection really strong. It is giving me that message though, and I think it is beautifully put together. Yeah, and I scored it a 91.
Thanks, Rachel. Angela.
Yeah, I gave this a 93. Just perhaps a little bit more context for Rachel, that I think this is a culmination of a lot of conspiracy theories about the master race that created the human race, and perhaps these beings that have created multiple worlds. You know, the planets around the top there, perhaps indicating that there's other clones of us out there. And the symbolism, if you look at them, they're not all consistent with the same same culture. So it's, I think, you know, because you can see some sort of more prehistoric kind of wall art, wall drawing symbols on the stomach, but then there's the Mayans and the Egyptian typography and stuff there as well. So I think that's reinforcing that all of these different ancient cultures have all had these connections, because these guys are the master race. And I probably would have gone even to a 90 into the next range up if it wasn't for that little highlight along the top of the flying saucer at the top that keeps drawing my eye around the edge there. But it's fantastic. I really enjoy the storytelling and the yeah, the mastery of putting this together is amazing.
Thanks, Angela. Craig, did you want to say something?
I'll just add one little tiny thing. I think Angela did a great job of explaining the different theories behind creation and things, but I think also there's a little nod to navigation and things here with the flying saucers, and then the smaller planets or larger stars, or whichever way you want to call it, on the right hand side there, as to how it is conspired that these creatures navigate. So yeah, I think there's a lot of thought and layering and meaning throughout this piece as well. I scored it 94.
Thanks, Craig. Amber?
I agree. I think that the narrative, the layers of narrative within this piece are really wonderful. But again, with this from a photographic and composite perspective, you can see along the side of the subject's arms that there's clear fall off of focus going on there. And then a lot of the elements that are in the background are sharper than the fall off of focus that's along the edges of the main subject. So it's just little sort of attention to detail, things like that stop me from going higher.
Thank you. Johan, do you want to finish this conversation?
Yeah. So I see the highlight across the rim of this flying saucer. That does also bother me. The fact that the top of the alien blends into the base of the saucer is also a point of concern. However, the references to lots of different times within our times are quite subtle and clever. And I think if we looked long enough and hard enough, we could find all sorts of references to things like Shakespeare, for example, and other things like that. So from the perspective of being incredibly clever, this is very, quite a merit-worthy image, which unfortunately falls down on a few sort of technical glitches. So I'm very happy for it to have a good, solid, straight gold. I gave it a 92. Yeah.
Thanks, Johan. Can we get the judges to rescore, please? Thank you. We have a gold at 93. Congratulations to the photographer. Can we have the next image, please? Great work, judges. We have an initial score of 92, and we do have a challenge from Amber. If you'd like to do that, Amber.
I would love to take this challenge. I gave this image a 97, and I have seen this image before, but it's actually very different viewing it in the digital format like this. I think that this is an incredible piece of mastery. I've done a lot of sort of longer exposure work with the human form myself, and to manage to capture this level of symmetry within an image, but still have the differences on either side, so it's not actually a symmetrical image, is just so incredibly clever. The way that the rainbow components of this image blend really, really beautifully, but have enough separation that we can sort of make out all of those different colors is really clever. I love the sort of angel iconography in the center of the image. I think that there are many, many different readings that you could take from it, and it would just depend on the viewer's own life. But I think this is an exceptional piece of work. So I really think it deserves to be in the Gold with Excellence range.
Thanks, Amber. Angela, can we hear from you, please?
Sure, I gave this an 88, I think. Yes, 88. And will easily be persuaded to come higher. I guess the only thing that really pulled me down was a few sort of quite harsh lines in the texture in the middle figure. But yeah, so incredibly creative and skillful of the photographer to put this piece together. Yeah, I don't have any other real issues with it, so it can easily be persuaded to come higher.
Thanks, Angela. Johan, you're pretty close to the Gold with Excellence range.
Yep. Cool. I gave it 94, and I'm thankful for the opportunity to go higher. I think what you're referring to, Angela, and I love the verticality of the middle figure, the angelism, I even like what seems like overexposure that makes you look right into the very heart of it all. And then as your eyes adjust, you look out to the side, but then you come back in. So you see the torch around the sides and you come back to the middle. It's such a powerful effect. And the use of color with such vibrancy, it's spectacular. And then that glow above the middle figure, as though it's rising. It's just stunning. I gave it 94 and I'm going up.
Thanks, Johan. Craig. Oh, everyone's got their hands up. So Craig, then Rachel, and then back to Amber.
So I scored this 91. I'm going to come up as well. I guess from my perspective, a couple of things really stood out to me, and that life is a spectrum. We're all on some kind of spectrum, that various people are on different spectrums, but we're all fighting our inner demons in some kind of way. I thought the fact that this upright, straight, virtuous white figure was in the middle, it says a lot about society and privilege, and I think it's a very powerful image. So yeah, I'm coming up with you, Amber.
Okay, Rachel.
I scored this one 92. Happy to go higher on it. Similar readings to Craig, but I felt like it was more about identity. I like the analogy of spectrums. I think that's really, really clever. But as Amber said, we can draw many different things from it. The thing that held me back most is why the arch, and why kind of a flat arched I guess ceiling to the image. So if someone can just help me understand that, that would be really cool, but I'm happy to come up and join you all.
Right, back to you, Amber.
Okay. Oh, it's nice to have some support on this magical piece. So I think that the arch and also those vertical white lines in the center are just both a little bit of a nod to the spirituality of this piece. There's a lot of arches within like religion and different buildings. And for me, those white verticalities, they really sort of look to me like fingers of God, you know, that come down through the clouds. So I think that the arch is actually a perfectly appropriate crop for this image. I absolutely love the narrative that you read from this image, Craig, and I regret my score at 97. I think that I have underscored this. So I would really like you guys to correct that for me, please.
Thanks, Amber. Can we have the judges rescore and Amber hold your score of 97? Thank you, judges. We have a gold with excellence at 96. Congratulations to the photographer. Can we have the next image, please? Thank you, judges. We have an initial score of 90, which is a gold award. Rachel, do you want to challenge this one?
I shall give it a crack. I scored this image 92, I think. 92. I'm getting a really strong story here with regards to the passage of time, how fleeting things can be, and then all we're left with being the bones. I feel like it's really cleverly put together. There's only one part of it that I really struggle with, which is the on the right hand side of the frame is the really sort of squat skull, which is actually bringing my attention away from the main subject and her very engaging expression. And I would have gone higher if I wasn't so drawn to that, and that is looking out of the frame. But yeah, I'd like to see it get a slightly higher gold if we can all work together on that one.
Thanks, Rachel. Johan, can we hear from you, please? You need to take yourself off mute.
I can even hear that. No, I don't want to be the naysayer here. I like the bookending of the image with the two partial full skeletons. I think that's superb. As my eye travels around the perimeter, there's a couple of distractions on the bottom left and bottom right, with the half skull looking out to the left, and the bottom bone that sort of leads you out of the image. But they're just minor things, you sort of notice those. The brighter elements in the photograph are the child's face, the big skull that it's holding, and the smaller skull over to the side, which is quite unique. I'm assuming that's what a child's skeleton might look like, very young. But as you're saying, it leads you out of the image along with that bone underneath. To the left-hand side of the child, there's a really dark skull, but it's got quite a bright rim around its eye, which is uncharacteristic of any of the other skeletons. And so it almost looks wrong in some way. When I'm looking at the gaze, I'm trying to understand the butterfly, and I'm really open to whatever explanation somebody can give me, whether it's a chrysalis idea or whatever, or is it just a butterfly for effect? And then I'm trying to see what the child is telling me with their expression. And it reminds me of the look that you get when you ask a child to look at a camera. Am I doing this right? So I'm not 100% convinced. I've still given it a distinctive silver, but I'm very open and really happy to listen to what anybody has to say.
Thank you, Angela.
I'll give my score. I gave this an 88, but I'm happy that this got into the gold range. I think the story is to do with a legend of this creature that consumed children and other beings to remain young, something along those lines. The thing that stopped me from going into the gold range was a lot of the things that Johan was talking about, but also there's a lot of stuff around the image that doesn't necessarily explain the narrative a great deal more, apart from the clock. There's just a lot of stuff that makes your eye wander all around the image, but not really finding anything, if that makes sense. So I think some editing in that regard would strengthen this overall image. It's quite disturbing, really. The little face looking at you, and quite macabre, but that's part of its charm, I guess. So yeah, I'm happy that it has received a gold, and I'm happy to keep my score as it is. Thanks.
Thank you. Amber, back to you. Oh, sorry, Craig just put his hand up.
Just wanted to really quickly just expand on what Angela kind of said, and a couple of other things. So I scored this 91, and I think this is the lair of a life-sucking creature that takes away others' lives to remain young and youthful. And I think that explains the symbolism of the butterfly being new life and rebirth. I actually kind of see that way that the skeletons are lit and are placed on that on that right hand side of her, as a way that my eye travels around that area and back over the top of the chair back to her face. So I think that circles around quite nicely. It also kind of forms a little love heart shape too, which perhaps doesn't quite fit with the narrative, but I think it's just a nice little kind of detail there. And as for there being like lots of stuff going on and not really an anchor point in the rest of the image, I think that's exactly what the lair of these kind of creatures would be like anyway. So yeah, so I'm glad that we're in the 90s here, and for those that are not, I would love to see them come up a little bit too.
Thanks, Craig. Actually, that was back to Rachel as the challenger.
Yeah, excellent. Thank you guys for the additional narrative there. I certainly hadn't thought of such an innocent wee face as being succubus or a creature that was that way inclined. The more I sit with this image, the more, as Craig mentioned, the lighting and the highlights on the bones and the direction of everything makes a lot of sense. There's compositionally some really clever use of shapes of triangles to bring you back through the image. The butterfly I got more as a nod to the fact that they have incredibly short lifespans, and goes in with the clock and the lack of time. But I think that just shows that the image is so cleverly created that we can bring additional elements into it. I'm a little bit gutted that I can't move my score up, but I would like to see it get a higher gold if everyone feels inclined.
Thanks, Rachel. Can we have judges rescore, please? And we have a gold at 91. Congratulations to the photographer. And that concludes our top 10 live judging of the 2025 Asia Pacific Photography Awards open category. Huge thank you to all the entrants. Congratulations to our top 10 finalists, and a massive thank you to our panel of judges.